And we are now live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Bisq Growth Call, where we're going to talk about what's new in Bisq. For anyone who's new here, Bisq is the only decentralized, completely private um, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchange where you can buy and sell Bitcoin with other peers without giving up your privacy and without giving up control of your Bitcoins. And if you're unaware of why this is so important, anyone who's been around in the Bitcoin world for more than a week will know that exchanges get hacked and that and that any large repository of user data eventually leaks. So Bisq aims to avoid this. You run your own server, you run your own node, and nodes communicating in P2P network to allow you to trade and to exchange messages with other users. Um, so Christoph can't join us this week as he's traveling, but we have here Manfred, who's going to be discussing some new things that are coming up, including the roadmap for the Bisq DAO. That's another thing that's very special about Bisq. It's not a company, it's not a startup, it's not a venture capital funded project. There's no shareholders to respond to. It's a DAO, it's a decentralized autonomous organization. At the moment, this is done a bit ad hoc, but there's some custom software coming out soon that will allow the DAO to work even more autonomously and to be even more decentralized, meaning that it's going to be more resilient than any other exchange out there. Won't be able to be closed down. It's also a completely open source project. Before we dive into the DAO stuff, I'd like to mention that we've had an amazing week as far as volumes are being concerned, mainly thanks to Monero. So the hard thing that Bisq tries to solve is fiat to crypto exchange, right? What's the thing that's really important to do in a decentralized fashion so it can't be censored? Exchanging Bitcoin for fiat. There's many countries where there's no exchanges. There's other countries where exchanges can't get bank accounts. There's other countries where exchanges have been shut down by regulation. Well, Bisq allows you to bypass all of this. However, as a plus, Bisq also makes it very easy to exchange one cryptocurrency for another. So not only can you buy or sell Bitcoin with euros or with dollars or with pounds, and many other currencies, by the way, but you can also buy and sell Monero, Ethereum, Dash, and other cryptos. And it seems like after many months, the Monero community has suddenly caught on to this and has also caught on to the fact that Bisq requires no KYC, no personal identifying data, nothing that can disturb your privacy. And therefore, Monero being a privacy-focused coin, they've decided they're going to use Bisq, and they've been doing quite nice bit of volume over the past few weeks. We've seen many days of more than $100,000 in volume just in Monero, and in fact, a couple of days ago, we saw over $250,000 in one day, which is considerably more than we have been seeing for Bisq in all the other currencies. In fact, Monero became the most traded currency for that day. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about today, first of all, these amazing Monero results, I hope they continue, but I also hope they become an example for other cryptocurrency communities who need an exchange. I had a fun Twitter exchange last week about a guy who's being asked by Binance for a listing fee of 400 Bitcoins. So this guy wanted to list his token, and Binance will take as a fee 400 Bitcoins just to list the token. That's a lot of money. Bisq will not charge you anything to list your token. Plus, it won't even make any judgment that Bisq lists some tokens and some currencies that we personally don't approve of, but because there's nobody in charge, it's a DAO. You meet a few standard criteria that will allow Bisq to work properly, like a proper block explorer, so that we can check transactions for arbitration, things like that. We will, not we will, you yourself with a pull request can list your coin. and there's a guide on how to do that. So even though we reckon that the hard thing to do is the fiat to crypto exchange, we're also very keen on people who want to trade cryptos to come along. And again, privacy respected, no sign up, no waiting list, nothing like that. Um, and apart from that, the other thing I really want to talk about very briefly, but I can't go without saying it, is on the 20th of September, we are doing a Kickstart Day for Bisq. Bisq September Market Kickstart Day. It's basically one day when we want to get as many people as possible to just place an order. We know that many of you obviously aren't going to be connected on Bisq all the time. You go online when you want to buy or sell, and then you turn it off. There's only a few people who are always online. But for one day, on that day, please try to connect. If you can all day, if you can't, just do it for an hour or so and place an offer so that we can measure. Because this is all private, we don't have any user data. The only way we can tell there's activity is by volume and by offers on the order books. So please, show your presence, show your interest in decentralized exchanges by going on Bisq on September 20th, 2018. It's our big plus. Also, if you tried Bisq before and haven't had any luck because your currency or payment system didn't have any other people trying to trade, that's the best day to try to kickstart a market. If you're from China, where centralized exchanges have been banned, if you're from India, where centralized exchanges will be banned by September, why not try Bisq just for one day? You have nothing to lose and a lot to gain if you can kickstart your community and your currency. And on that topic, a big congratulations to the Thailand Bitcoiners who've managed to kickstart Thai baht trading. I think we've had 4 or 5 trades by now in Thai bahts. So, which it has always been very closely associated with Bitcoin because of the using the same symbol. So with that, oh yeah, one final thing on the September Kickstart Day. Let me try and share my screen if I'm not too clumsy at doing this. Let's try this. Share screen. Manfred, if you can see my screen, please tell me. Right, so here you see the GitHub issue for Bisq September Market Kickstart Day, September 20th. Please, please, please hit the thumbs up if you can participate. If we get to 30, 50 thumbs ups, this will get more people to participate, more people to want to do it. And also we'd very much like to get people from China, from Mexico, from India, from South Africa, and from Russia to participate. So let's get the word out. Anyone who's interested in decentralized exchanges wants a good day to try one. Well, Bisq is the most decentralized exchange that's out there, and there's never been a better day to try it than on September 20th. Bisq is still in beta, but it has been live for over a year. It has been doing significant volume for many months. So, get out of your comfort zone and try it, even if only for one day. So with that, I'll pass it over to Manfred, who's got some lovely stuff to talk about the DAO and so on. I'll go mute, Manfred.
Yes, thank you. I just start the screen sharing. 1 second. Yeah, I think it should work. Do you see anything? Or yeah, that's the no.
Yeah, I see your presentation, Manfred.
Yeah. I want to give a little bit of kind of like sneak preview of the upcoming features and releases, what we're doing. So I want to talk about the roadmap, the upcoming releases, and one very special thing will be the mobile notifications app, a feature which has been requested since long time, and we finally get it now. And then about the Bisq DAO and also a little bit about the rebranding. I mean, it's all quite a lot, so we probably run out of time, so I have to make it short. So jump into it. The next release, the 08 release, is planned in the next weeks. and it will continue face-to-face trade. There have been some discussions, and it's also a feature which has been requested since a long time. And finally, we found a way how to add, to have a model which hopefully is secure enough. And it's a little bit an experiment. We tried out how it will work, and we adjust and adapt it to the experience what we have. But I think, if you're more interested how the concept works, read it up at our proposals page at GitHub/Bisq-network/proposals. And there is a description about the concept and some discussions. So that will add even more privacy for those people who prefer to not use the banks because they are becoming more and more restrictive and more troublesome. And if we can get enough traders locally for enabling a face-to-face trade community, would be great. And the other big thing will be the Bisq mobile notifications app. I will show it in a minute then. The next release after that, it's planned in mid-end September. That will continue the redesign, as we have a big redesign of the logo and the whole CI, cooperated entity for Bisq doesn't really fit, but for the design of the application and the web page. And we have a fantastic designer who delivered great suggestions how to change the style, and I will show it also afterwards.
Just a quick question. We are keeping the cat, right?
Yeah, we are keeping the cat, but in a different style. I will show it afterwards. Looks pretty cool. And of course, it when people are already very used to the current cat, it's always some people have problems with changes in with design. Of course, you never get 100% agreement, so there are different opinions. But most people who have saw the design, they were pretty impressed and liked it quite a lot. And the other big thing which is planned for this 09 release will be the DAO for testnet. So we want to give the contributors opportunity to play around. So we have probably very short cycles of 1 week where people can make compensation requests and voting, and it's all just play money. It's not connected to real BSQ. It's the main intention is that people can play around without losing or risking anything, and we get more testers and get back feedback from usability and possible bugs or issues. And if this goes well, that there are no terrible issues or whatever found, then we hopefully are in mid or end of October ready with the DAO launch for mainnet. Yeah, the Bisq mobile application notification app. It's a push notifications for any important Bisq events. It's available for iOS and Android. Both versions are basically nearly finished. So in 1 or 2 weeks, it's completely final. And the notifications types which we are supporting is when your offer gets taken. So when you're the maker and you have an offer open, you get a message to your phone where the offer gets taken. Then important trade events. So when you're in the middle of a trade and you and the other peer click the payment started button that he has sent the fiat to you, then you receive a message. When you are confirming the receipt, then the other peer gets a message that basically the trade is completed. When you're in a dispute, then you receive a message when a new dispute message has arrived. You can define price alerts. So you can say, I would like to get an alert when the euro price is in a certain, or it's above a certain price range, when it's over 8,000 euro or below 5,000 euro, whatever you define. And market alerts, where you get informed when a new offer which matches your defined criteria gets published. So you can say, okay, I'm interested in SEPA offers, in buy Bitcoin offers for a price of whatever euro, and when such a offer gets published to the offer book, you get a message and you can go to Bisq and take the offer. Or the taking offer you have to do on your application, but you get the notification that there is an interesting offer for you waiting to be taken. Technically, it works that we're using a relay node that's similar to our price nodes. It's basically yeah. It on the one side it listens it's a HTTP server with over Tor. So your Bisq application is sending a message to to this onion address. So the server doesn't learn about your IP address, and it forwards to Apple or to Google the notification information so that you get the notification on your mobile. All the data is encrypted, so Apple or Google will not learn anything about the content of the data. The only thing what they will learn is that there is a user who is using Bisq and the Bisq notification application. I mean, that they learn already when you're downloading it, and that you received from the timing that you received any type of message. But what this message was about, they don't know. So I think they're not really too much concerns from the privacy aspect. This server, which will be operated by the guy who is doing the mobile applications, he could theoretically learn about the connection of an onion address and the mobile ID. The data are not stored locally, they're only forwarded directly, but of course there's a little bit of trust involved, and those people who are super concerned about privacy and paranoid, they probably will not use it, or they should not use it because yeah, at least we didn't find a way to how to make it more to add more protection on the privacy side. But I think for most people that's good enough, and it's completely optional. Of course, you don't need to use it if you're not interested in. And yeah, when you use it the first time, but maybe I showed this in the screens. So here are the screens, how it looks like. On the left, you see I mean, currently it's branded with the current icon and with the current design, but as soon we have the new design out, it will be then rebranded to the new one. The first thing when you install the app is that you have to pair your app with Bisq. And it's the other way, like usually that you get that you are scanning from your mobile. Here, the mobile application is creating a key for encryption and is giving the mobile identifier token to the Bisq application, because that is needed for sending to Apple for the notification or service, or to Google. So both those data are transferred from your mobile app to the Bisq app over scanning a QR code. When you don't have a webcam on your computer, you can send it by email to your Bisq application and then copy paste this data. And yeah, in the Bisq application, it looks.
Sorry, just so I get it, you have to scan with the Bisq desktop app the QR from the phone instead of the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the other way. Like usually it's the way that you are scanning with your mobile phone something, but as we need to transfer the mobile token to the Bisq application, because the Bisq application is sending then this data to this relay server, and the relay server is sending this to Apple or Google, and they know to which mobile they should send the notification. So
this means that eventually you're going to be able to leave your desktop with Bisq running and then control it completely from your phone, right? Even if at the moment it's only notifications, but eventually it will be.
That's maybe I talk, or I can talk now. Because that's basically the second version what's planned. Also, after this notification application is only one direction. You only can send data from the Bisq application to the mobile, but not the other way around. The other way around would be much more difficult, and especially from the privacy aspect, there will not be a good solution. But we will try to implement a solution where you have a Tor hidden service on your mobile for Android. That will work for sure. Also, the guy who is doing the Tor library, what we're using in Bisq, has done this on Android. For iOS, there might be a problem. So it's not, I think there are 50% chances that it works on iOS for technical reasons. So it might be that it will be only an Android version where you can then have a bidirectional connection between the mobile application and Bisq, and then you can really remote control your Bisq application over an API. And we want to start very simple, to have only very few, very basic use cases. But of course, over time, it can evolve to a fully trading application, basically, that you can do all the important stuff from your mobile.
this is all open source, right? So in theory, someone could use the API to create a website where they have a Bisq client running in the background, but everyone else just does for very small orders, for example, everyone else just does it from the phone or from the web front end or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Also, also here the code for the mobile is all open source, like everything in Bisq, and uh, yeah, the API is open source, so it's of course very welcome any developer who want to join these efforts, especially then to implement really more into this mobile application is an ongoing task. And as said, we want to keep it as minimal as possible at the beginning, but it will probably grow over time, and it will be an iterative process. And we see what are the requirements and the demands from the users. And with that, basically, it will be then really a two-way communication, which is completely outside of control of Apple or Google. It's just over Tor. But for notifications, it doesn't work because your application needs to be running to do this. When your application is in background or shut off, yeah, you would not get a message. So there will be still the Bisq notification part, because yeah, when an offer gets taken, you still want to get their information. But to react to, for instance, a signal that you have sent the payment, that you will be able to do then directly over the Torrent service without going over the Apple and Google services. So I think,
Manfred,
and
I've been meaning to ask you, what's the lowest spec computer that you can run Bisq on? You can't do
uh,
it on a Raspberry Pi, but you can do it on
you
something
can do it.
pretty.
You can do it. There in a while ago, 2 or 3 years ago, there were some guys, and one made a bounty for getting Bisq working and running and compiled on the Raspberry Pi. And
Wow.
some guy made it, and it seemed that it was working. I have not seen it how fast, but it was workable. So basically, the hardware, also the requirements are not terrible. I think every normal computer can deal with it. But of course, a computer which is 10 years or older might have issues. But
Yeah,
I have not.
I'm thinking about poorer countries, but if it runs on a Raspberry Pi, I mean, anyone who's got any Bitcoin is going to be able to run it. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, when you have super bad internet connection and so on, it's yeah, with Tor, and so you have some requirements. But so far
Well,
we didn't have.
after we make Bisq a success, we create a DAO for a mesh network internet. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be fantastic. That's really the missing link, the mesh networks, and I think that a DAO would be the model for this, because otherwise it will never scale up. Yeah. Yeah, back to the mobile application. As said, here you can scan the QR code or enter in this text field with pairing token. You can enter the string directly, which you can send by email to your computer, or however you can also type it in if you like. Uh, then there are different types of messages. The trade messages, what I mentioned before, for an offer getting taken for in the trade, and then for disputes, that's all summarized as trade messages. So you can enable or disable this type of messages, market alerts and price alerts. And like here, yeah, the market alerts are not implemented yet on the UI side, only on the data level side. But the price alert are implemented, so you can define, okay, I would like to get an alert when the euro price is above that or below that. And yeah, what else? On the mobile, after you have done the pairing, you get the message automatically, and you see this first screen. Congratulations that everything is set up. Then when you get some messages, I have created here some test messages for price alert, dispute, trade state change, and your offer got taken. And when you click on one of these items, you get the details with the trade ID and the date and all this. And in the settings, yeah, you can reset and pair again. Yeah, there's an interesting feature. I go back one slide. You can remotely erase. So when your phone gets stolen and you want to be sure that the thief has no access to your information, what's on your mobile notification app, you can remotely erase all the data there. So all the messages get removed, and the the information for the pairing get removed. So it's basically a reset of the mobile application. And yeah, that's it basically. Then I jump to the next part, the Bisq DAO. So the UI is getting already pretty complete. It still needs a little bit of polishing, but I think it's pretty functional already. From the coding side, we are in the finalizing. I mean, there are basically all features implemented. There are just small stuff which need to be improved and refactored and polished and tested more, and especially tests. I mean, that's the big thing. But yeah, we need much more tests and so on. So it's still a lot of work to do, but I think we're getting soon ready for a testnet launch. Here are some screens. Those are the screens of the BSQ wallet. So it will contain a full wallet, similar like the Bitcoin wallet. And BSQ technically is Bitcoin, so it just has a prefix with a B at the beginning for the address, so that you cannot make mistakes and sending Bitcoin to the wrong wallet. You have a dashboard with all basic overviews and statistics of the network, how many tokens are in circulation, how many tokens have been burned, and so on. Then you can send BSQ to another BSQ address. For instance, when you're trading BSQ, you can receive the BSQ on some address. And here you see on the right bottom transaction view, where you see different types of transaction, from the Genesis transaction, compensation request, the voting, and so on. Then there's the governance area.
About the voting, Manfred. There's only one type of voting, with a secret vote and the reveal and the 3 steps, or is there going to be a simplified version of voting for like less important stuff?
No, I think we only have. It would be theoretically we could implement a second version of voting without this encrypted vote, but it would be quite a lot of effort. And I mean, the DAO can be extended in future. It's just that all clients who doesn't have this feature doesn't understand it. So yeah, it's a little bit of a blurry area between soft fork and hard fork, and what you do. The stuff which is mainly for governance only is relevant for the contributors who are participating in voting. For normal traders who are only buying and selling BSQ or using it for trading fees, there are less restrictions. So it's a little bit complex area, but at the moment it's not planned, because I mean the blind voting that your vote is not visible to others has a lot of important protection, because otherwise you could manipulate it. Or at the end, you have an incentive to wait until the last moment, because then you have more information what the others have voted on. And then in the last moment, you can, with a lot of stake, you can put in your vote and change easier the outcome, like with a blind vote where you have no clue what the other have voted in the voting process. Yeah. Here in the governance, again, we have a dashboard where the voting cycles, at the moment, that's just for development. In reality, the proposal phase will be something like 3 weeks, and then the blind vote phase and the vote reveal phase will be something like 3 days. And the vote result is just 1 block where the result gets calculated. And yeah, you see all the information when the next vote phase or the next phase starts. So we are using the blocks as their time unit, but we are converting it to the estimated time based on the assumption that 1 block is 10 minutes. Then you can make a proposal. At the moment, we have implemented the compensation request, a bonding, so that you are bonding for that that your request, you want to become a role owner, like an arbitrator or like a seed node operator. So all these roles which require bonding, because there are some security issues related to it, have to be accepted by the network. So it's not defined by myself or whatever who will get a role, but everybody has to make a request who want to take a role, and then the network or the stakeholders define if it get accepted or not, and then he has to set up this bond. Then yeah, the bonds can be confiscated. So when an arbitrator becomes corrupt or whatever, then anybody can make a request for confiscating the bond of the arbitrator, and when it gets the supermajority of the voting, it would be burned. Then what else? Yeah, changing a parameter, which can be quite a lot of different parameters in the DAO, like for instance, the length of a voting cycle, if it should be 3 weeks or only 2 weeks or whatever, can be changed. Or the trading fees, the amount of the height of the trading fee can be changed by voting. And yeah, and which is not implemented yet, but which are rather trivial to implement and will be implemented the next 1 or 2 weeks, is a generic proposal where you have just a free text proposal, basically, where say Bisq should implement SegWit, and it has no direct consequences. It's just basically a signal to the community that yes, some people think that's important and they get voted. Okay,
How about bounty? So Bisq should implement SegWit, and there should be a 10,000 BSQ bounty for whoever makes the first code or whatever.
Yeah. Who would pay the bounty? The guy who makes the request?
Oh no, of course not. No. The person who
Yeah.
makes the proposal has to be the one who creates the BSQ. Okay, I see what you mean. But anyway, what I meant is that you can make simple proposals as a signal, but an even stronger signal is we should do this, and whoever does it should get paid.
Yeah, you can combine it in such a generic proposal that you say whoever is implementing or SegWit transaction in Bitcoin J will get whatever 20,000 BSQ, and when the majority of the stakeholders vote okay, then basically when somebody's implementing this and fulfilling everything, uh, he has a very strong. I mean, there's no guarantee because not automatically executed. That's different to all the other proposals are basically smart contracts. You don't need to ask a developer to implement anything when your compensation requests get accepted or your bonded role get accepted or the confiscation request for a bonded role get accepted. It happens automatically at the result phase. It gets executed by code. And with a generic proposal, this is not the case, but it gives a very strong signal to the stakeholders and to the participants in the DAO. So yeah, it's a weak link between this pure executed by code domain and the more human blurry domain. And I think it could be useful for stuff which cannot be implemented or which we add more flexibility with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
The whole point of a DAO is that it can evolve beyond what we can imagine, right? So yeah.
exactly. And there are already quite a few new use cases, which are not planned to be implemented, but which demonstrate that it's quite powerful what you can build on top. Basically, you could build a prediction market on top of the DAO, what's there already. You make a bet about the price. It could be like a spread betting or like speculating on price movements. And you create a similar like a compensation request. You are putting some Bitcoin in for the case when you are winning the bet, and you are putting some BSQ in, which is in a bond basically, and which can get burned in the case when you are losing. So let's say we both make a bet that the Bitcoin price will be $8,000 at a certain block height, and when we are both creating a BSQ transaction where we are bonding 1,000 BSQ when we are putting 1,000 BSQ as the bet. And we are both creating an issuance with 1,000 BSQ, which is invalid at the moment. But at the moment when the result is there, also at the strike date of this bet, it would be executed that the winner will be accepted. Also, the issuance for the winner will be accepted. So when you are the winner, you have issued 1,000 BSQ to yourself, and the bond get unlocked. And
Wait. You still need the DAO to act as an oracle, right? You still need someone. You still need a judge to say the price was above or the price was below.
And
So
that's of course.
you're basically using the DAO as an oracle, which is good. I love it. It's better than what Augur is doing. But to be honest, I'm much more excited about the atomic swaps, not even the atomic swaps, the single transaction swaps between BSQ and Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's
That I think is really exciting because it
yeah,
allows really atomic swaps without any type of arbitration, really
yeah, that's
unbreakable smart contracts.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that really excites me.
Uh, uh, I didn't want to get lost also with this. I mean, the interesting thing with the Oracle, I mean, there are some ideas how to have basically a centralized but trustless Oracle. It's basically the idea what the developers behind TLS Notary developed, that on Amazon on the Amazon Web Services infrastructure, you can run a server which is verified by the hash of the whole servers. And when you have a reproducible build for the whole server setup, which is open source, everybody could create the hash out of this and can verify that on Amazon this instance is running and that you have not tampered on this code. And then this server is basically a relative trustless Oracle. That's, from what I'm aware, is the best model, the most closest model for Oracle. It still has, you have to trust Amazon that they are not abusing their power. Of course, Amazon
Well,
could interfere, but
look,
for smaller stuff,
I have a very practical approach to oracles. I don't believe in trustless oracles. I don't think we'll ever see that. But you can have trust minimized oracles, and what's more important, you can have oracles who are trusted by so much more money and
yeah,
interest than you that your transaction is insignificant, so it wouldn't make any sense to
yeah,
corrupt the oracle for your transaction. So for example, a Bloomberg feed or a Reuters
exactly.
feed or a New York Stock Exchange feed is already followed by people moving millions and millions of dollars. Come on, who's
Exactly.
gonna fake it to to rip you off at one
Yeah.
Bitcoin transaction? So
It
there
it's
are actually
even
things that
yeah,
could be used right now as
yeah,
oracles, not trustless, but with a
yeah,
very, very high degree of
yeah.
trust.
I mean, I even would say that Bitcoin average is good enough for small amounts. I mean, you cannot trade $100,000, but that you cannot do anyway. But for making a bet or such a deal with $1,000, I think Bitcoin average will not compromise their service for that. You can bribe them or whatever that you
Yeah,
win
but even
$1,000.
even Bitcoin average is in the crypto world, which is relatively small. But you take something such as a Google Finance currency feed or a
Yeah,
Google Finance stock exchange ticker that
yeah,
is used by millions of spreadsheets all over the world.
yeah,
Uh, you know, if that gets compromised, which it could if enough money was involved, but it's not going to get compromised by a
exactly.
couple of guys trading
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it's always you have to always see it in the relation what you want to do. I mean, we are not trading billions here, and for those small amounts, it's probably good enough. But another interesting and very powerful feature will be to extend the voting for such oracles, that the BSQ stakeholders can be basically the oracle who say who take, of course, the price from whatever price feed, because the problem is how you get the price stream from an API into the blockchain, that it can be really be read and used in the execution of the code. Basically, it should be really timestamped in a block. And who is doing this? We don't want to have a central person who is creating this transaction. But when it would be done by voting, that basically every stakeholder would make a a vote on what he thinks what's the correct price at this time, and then the majority is winning. And and then we are using this as a kind of oracle. Then you have the trust model that you have to trust the BSQ stakeholder. So basically, the value of the BSQ is the kind of like the counter weight from the money. And of course, it also doesn't work when you want to make bets with 100 millions. The BSQ value is probably not enough to be really sensitive, to be not corruptible. But for small amounts, I think it is. And with that, you're even more flexible because the stakeholders, they are humans. They can they can translate any kind of information into this information what we need, which becomes then readable and executable by the smart contract. And I think that's basically the powerful thing. Uh, but anyway, let's go back to the basics.
So
What we're
many
doing
cool
now.
things. So many cool things.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah, what's not implemented yet, but what's on our to-do list, on open to-do list, is this generic proposals and the remove altcoin proposals. So as we have the policy that we are adding any altcoins and we don't apply politics to this, even if we think that it's completely a shitcoin, uh, any stakeholder can make a proposal for removing the altcoin. So when we have a one coin and everybody say, hey, no, we don't want to have this in Bisq, then anyone can make a proposal. When you get the majority, the altcoin gets removed automatically in Bisq. So with that, we have basically a kind of like a governance about which altcoins are listed in Bisq and which not. And yeah, when you have made a proposal, others can browse the open proposals. That's the third screen here. And you see all the information, and the main information will be just on GitHub. Like we have now, these issues on GitHub, there's all the details, so we didn't want to overload the UI here with a lot of information like a web page. It's just a link to the GitHub. And yeah, there is basically the information where you can read up what this compensation request is about. Then when you're getting into the voting phase, the voting phase consists of two phases: this blind vote, where you're doing your actual vote, and then the vote reveal, where you have to be online because your application is creating a transaction automatically. You don't have to do anything manually, but you have to be online. So when you are a voter and you only make your vote in the blind vote, and then you're not online for a week, your vote will be invalid. Because in the vote reveal, you are publishing your secret key for encryption so that everybody can decrypt your vote data and can create the result out of this. And yeah, and the benefit with this scheme is that during the voting phase where you can actively vote, nobody can read the data and nobody knows what the others have voted. And that solves a lot of problems with potential attacks. So yeah, again, you are browsing the proposals. You can accept or reject or ignore a proposal. You don't have to vote on a proposal, and basically you should not vote on proposals where you don't know enough. It's basically this kind of like natural delegation, what we try to apply in the most recent round for voting as well, because you're not doing a good service. I mean, this voting is mainly a management function. You are making a decision how BSQ should be spent on, and because you're a stakeholder, you don't want to make a bad decision. When there is a requester who has done whatever bullshit and everybody votes accept it because they want to be nice, they are not serving their own money because we are diluting with every request. We are diluting our BSQ stake, so we should be careful to only accept and support work which is really valuable. And because it's work, it's an effort, especially on development side. When you want to validate if a pull request from a developer was valuable or not, you have to be developer yourself. You have to be familiar with the code, and realistically, there are only 2 or 3 people usually who have the ability to validate this. Of course, everybody can do it. It's open, but it's not a best practice to vote just blindly, basically on compensation requests, because you are distorting the vote result. And when only those people who really know about the request, like another co-developer who is working with the other developer, he knows really what the value is. And when he vote accept or reject, and when he's maybe the only, or there are just 2 or 3 people, then their relative weight is much stronger. Like when everybody's voting, and 50% of the votes are more or less random because they have no clue what they are voting on.
Yeah, I don't think, Manfred, I don't think there's much danger of that, at least initially, because of the way the BSQ tokens are acquired in the first place. The majority of them are going to be with developers who've contributed, and
Yeah,
therefore they're going to know what they're talking about.
yeah,
In time, this might, but in the beginning, it's unavoidable that it's going to be huge developer meritocracy. So I doubt
yeah,
very much there'll be random votes, or at least in any large amounts.
yeah. And it's also yeah, we see it here also the weight from the earned BSQ, this kind of like meritocracy semantic part for the voting weight. Also, when you make a vote, your voting weight is a combination of the stake what you want to put in. That's just the BSQ what you want to put in this transaction, and that you have to have in your wallet, and it will be blocked during the blind vote phase. So you cannot sell this BSQ that's locked basically in this transaction. And and the other influence is the sum of all your past earned BSQ. So when you're a contributor and you have done already 10 contribution requests in the last year, and you have earned whatever 50,000 BSQ, then this 50,000 BSQ will be used as the weight from the earned BSQ, and you cannot transfer this because you are the one who have issued to yourself this BSQ for your work, and it has an aging function so that your contributions over time have less weight, and it's a linear function over 2 years, so that contribution requests which are 2 years old have then 0, even if you have earned 20,000 BSQ, and when it's 2 years old, then it has not any influence anymore. When it's 1 year, then it has the half, then it has 50% of this 20,000 BSQ. And with that, we are basically emphasizing that more recent contributions have more influence, because usually those people are more informed what's going on. A contributor who has worked 2 years ago and has not done anything anymore in the meantime, he's probably not in sync with the project anymore, and probably his vote should not be weighted so highly because probably he's not so well informed. So yeah, and then finally is the result phase. And when we are triggering the result phase, every Bisq application is calculating all the results from all the data, which is a combination of Bitcoin, blockchain data, and peer-to-peer network data. And everybody has to get exactly the same result, otherwise we would have a consensus bug. And then it's defined if a compensation request was accepted or declined. And here in the screen, you can browse the proposals and you see your own vote when you have voted, if you have accepted it, with which votes taken, and so on, and the vote result summary if it was accepted, and then the threshold is how much percentage you received from the votes, and the quorum is that every type of proposal has a different threshold and quorum. The quorum is what you need minimum of BSQ to get accepted. So when you make a request and you're the only one who vote for it, and you vote with 500 BSQ, but the quorum will be whatever 10,000 BSQ, and you have accepted it, so you have basically 100% of threshold, but you have not reached the quorum because the quorum will be 10,000 BSQ, and it's basically the protection that some junior contributors should not have so much power that with very few votes that they can get accepted. So they need quite a big chunk of support from other contributors.
Yeah, you basically have to campaign, right? You have a proposal that nobody's heard about you, or you have to go on Slack, you have to go on the social media where Bisq is,
exactly,
convince other people, which is how things should be, right?
Yeah.
You have to campaign for your proposal if nobody knows about it.
And it's mainly also, I mean, somebody could try to spam and can create hundreds of proposals and hope that somebody's overlooking something and he's voting with his stake. But when he has not really a lot of stake, he will not manage anything. So it's it's some additional protection. Then the bonding, that's that's a little bit more work in progress, but the basics are implemented also. So you can, for any role, there's a bond defined, how much bond you need for becoming an arbitrator, for instance. When you get voted okay, that the network thinks, it's okay that you become an arbitrator, then you have to make your bond, and only then you are valid to become an arbitrator. And as said, when you would abuse your powerful role for this and would do something harmful for Bisq, then anybody could file a confiscation request. And when the stakeholders get convinced that this is justified, you can lose your bond, because when you unlock your bond has an unlock time. So when you set up your bond, you have to define the unlock time, which will be for an arbitrator, for instance, something like 2 months or 3 months. So even when as an arbitrator and you do a scam, then with the voting, we need minimum 1 month or so to make a decision, and maybe a little bit more to get all the information. And even if you, as an arbitrator, would make immediately your unlock transaction, then you still need to wait this 3 months before you can spend your BSQ. Nobody would accept this locked BSQ. And in this time, it can be confiscated. After these 3 months, you could have sold it on the market. And yeah, when we would confiscate it, we would burn the money of somebody else. So that doesn't work anymore. It only can be burned as long as it's locked, or as long as it's in this unlocking phase before the unlock time is over. And these roles are, yeah, when you're an arbitrator and you would unlock your bond without revoking your arbitration, you would become automatically invalid as arbitrator and nobody would accept you anymore. So it's connected with the roles. When it's possible with other roles, it's not so easy like a domain name holder. There is no interface where whatever you can interfere with the domain name registry or whatever. But here it's more that there is some money to lose. So when those people who have some powerful roles, when they are abusing their power, they are risking to lose money. Yeah. Are there any questions from your side, or I don't know if anybody from the community
I
has?
don't see any questions in the YouTube chat. I do see a couple of comments in Slack, um, asking about oracles and where to find the Raspberry Pi story, but I don't know the answers to those.
Yeah.
Plus, it's well past 9, so I think we should wrap
Yeah,
it
we
up.
should. Yeah. I mean, the
Leave
Raspberry Pi
something for
you
next
can find
week.
on the. Sorry.
Leave something for next
Yeah,
week.
yeah. Yeah, we can also continue next week. I mean, I would have had the redesign stuff. So if you're very curious, I can jump quickly through it.
Go
I
on.
think that's the last. Yeah. Yeah, that's some screenshots from the Bisq redesign. 1 second, I was missing one. So that's a new logo with the new icon and the new font type. So that would be the starting, the preloading screen. Then here are some screens what Peter has already designed. When
I very much like the red for sale offers and the green for buy offers. I think that's very intuitive for anyone who's in the market.
yeah, maybe. And yeah, in this links of the Project Envision app, you can see all the current screens what he has already designed. Christoph is already working on implementation, and he got already quite far as well. So I think it's realistic to say that in 6 weeks we might be ready. Also, Peter has also started on the webpage redesign. Yeah, you find it on Slack and on GitHub. And here are some references for the face-to-face trade and the redesign. Here's references for the Bisq notifications, all the code and proposal, and here for the DAO.
I will put a link to this presentation. It's already in Slack and other places and in GitHub, but I will put it in the YouTube comments.
Yeah, great, thanks. I will stop my screen sharing. Oh no, it's stopped already. Yeah, it's getting late already. Maybe we should wrap up then.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you very much for coming on, Fritz. Very, very interesting stuff. I can't wait to see that roadmap come to effect. This just shows that Bisq is really doing stuff nobody else is doing. Everyone else is off, doing commercial stuff and not thinking about what's going to work 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So before my voice completely gives out, thanks everyone for coming. See you next week.
See you. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.